Hello and welcome. My name is Nadia Rashan, and if you are new to my channel, I'm so happy you're here. I have decided that for all of December, I was trying to say 2024. All of 2024. I am going to be filming videos and trying to upload as much as possible. The goal is once a week. We'll see if that happens. But today is January 23rd. It is currently 3 p.m. and I'm actually gonna film a different video today as well. So I am like killing two birds with one stone because I need to do my makeup today so I can film the other video because it's gonna be like a little sit down chatty video. And I figured this one would be really cool if I just like did my little girly makeup and chat it with y'all. So we're gonna do that. I've got some coffee here, which has been reheated 3 times already. This little mug is the most adorable little thing ever. I'm so excited. So before we go any further, don't forget to press subscribe and follow me on Instagram and TikTok if you would like. And let's get started. First things first is putting my contacts in, so we're gonna do that. This is my makeup bin. I got this bin from TJ Maxx. It came with a lid too, but I have too many things in this bin. You can't really. The e.l.f. Power Grip Primer, and I'm actually almost out of this, so I need to refill it. So while we're doing makeup, I'm going to tell you guys just about me and who I am and all that jazz. So hi, like I said earlier, my name is Nadia, and I really just love media. Like, I love creating content. I love social media in general, but I really enjoy making videos. I've always enjoyed making videos. I was a big like YouTube fan when I was growing up. So yeah, I started posting videos in probably 2013 or 2014. I was in high school and my mom really supported me on that. She was just like, okay, just be careful. Other than that, I was really able to do whatever I wanted with trying to become a YouTuber, just because my mom knew that I really enjoyed it. This like content creation thing is something that I've always been really interested in. By the way, I don't use foundation anymore just because I don't really feel like I need it. My skin has been doing really well. My freshman year of college, I filmed a college move-in vlog, and I didn't think much of it when I was filming it. I was just like excited. I was like, oh, I'm going to college. I'm gonna start vlogging all the time. It's gonna be so cool. That video actually reached a lot of viewers, and I actually started to receive Google paid me, and it was fantastic. I eventually stopped posting because college is hard and there was just a lot going on all the time. But for the first several months of college, I was vlogging like weekly, uploading weekly, doing little mini brand deals and things, and it was really fun. So I had something really traumatic happen at the end of my freshman year, literally like the last week of school. Because of that, I actually ended up taking some time off from school. I had decided that like I needed to go home. I was having panic attacks all the time, and I was just going to take a gap year. I was like, I want to go home. I want to get some help. I tried getting help like in Decatur, where Millikin is, but there just like wasn't the support that I needed. It just like wasn't available, which was unfortunate, and I really hope that that has changed. So this next part I'm gonna say, I will say success is a relative term. So you only find the definition of success by comparing yourself to other careers, or comparing yourself to someone else. So if I'm comparing my career, so looking at my career, I can definitely say like I have a pretty successful career. I've done 2 national tours. I've worked regionally. I am a working theater creative, and that is wonderful. I do not think that the trajectory of my career would have happened if I didn't leave Millikin. And I loved Millikin. Like, I loved that school. If I didn't have to leave for my own like mental health, I have no doubt that I would be successful. I just think, well, I know for a fact that the way that my success has worked, it would have worked out differently if I didn't leave Millikin. So I left Millikin literally I had moved into my summer dorm, and then I was working in Decatur that summer, choreographing a show, which was great. I had a huge panic attack, and I was like, oh, that was not a fun situation. And then I left for 3 weeks because I was interning with Broadway Dreams. So I went on like a little tour, went to Canada, came back to the States, went to Charlotte, North Carolina, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and we did shows there, and it was wonderful, and I got to be with my friends and all of my mentors, and it was incredibly healing for me. But during that time, I was like, I feel like I would really benefit from being away from school. Still doing what I love, but just like being away from that environment and away from that situation as a whole. And I called my mom at the end of that 3 weeks, literally the night before I was going to be flying home. And I was like, hey girlfriend, I think I want to come home. I don't want to go back to school. I need some help and I want to come home. My mom was like, okay. So my mom and grandma and my cousin loaded up the car, and the next day they met me in Decatur. Another time I was in Philly, so I flew back from Philly and my mom met me at my apartment. They packed me up and I moved home for a year. And that's way too much. That's way too much. In that year, I did a couple of shows. I did a show at the Union for Contemporary Art in Omaha. The Bubbly Black Girl Sheds Her Chameleon Skin. I played Vivica, and that was my first principal role, which was so exciting. Fun fact that one of the production photos was just on a billboard in Omaha a couple of months ago. And I think it actually might still be up because it was up last month. It went up in October and it was up last month when I was home for the holidays. I did that show. A playwright had actually come to see the show. She messaged me on Facebook after. She had written a play and it was going to get workshopped in Denver. And she was like, I have a role that I think you would be perfect for. I'm going to send your stuff to the casting team, and if they like you, they'll like reach out to you. And probably like a week or so later, I don't exactly remember this because this was in 2019, I got an email from the casting director, and they were like, hey, we want to offer you this role. We'll bring you out to Denver Center and you'll be there for 2 weeks. And that was my first professional job. It was my first regional gig and it paid really well, and it was the first time that I had been like flown out to a theater company and housed. They took care of the transportation. It was the coolest experience, and I was 19 at the time, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. And that is how I got my EMC card, which is not important anymore because Actors Equity has since changed the EMC program and membership as a whole. So how you gain membership to Actors Equity is completely different now. And right after that, I started rehearsals for a production of Hair. Hair happened at Nebraska Repertory Theater, and it was my second equity job. So I was able to gain equity points. So with the EMC program, you were earning points. You got 1 point per week that you worked on a production. So if I worked on a show for 10 weeks, 4 weeks of rehearsal, and then 6 weeks of shows, that was 10 points towards my equity card. Originally, it was 50 points that you needed, and when I had joined EMC, you needed 25 points. So I had racked up a bunch of points over a couple of months, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess I can keep going this route of trying to get my equity card and start working at like bigger theaters. Where is my brow brush? Oh, when I was working on hair, I made a lot of friends. And at the end of the production, I'd had a meeting with the director of the show, who was the interim artistic director of the Nebraska rep, and he was also the interim head of the program. And he offered me a scholarship. He was like, "You're 19, what are you doing? Do you want to go to school?" And I was like, "Yeah, that'd be great," because I was like, I don't have anything planned. Sure, I'll go back to school. Yeah, so I was like, yeah, I don't have anything planned, I'll go back to school. And so I accepted a scholarship, and I went to the University of Nebraska, Lincoln for 2 years. And in the middle of my second year, COVID happened. No, COVID happened in 2020. So in the middle of my first year, COVID happened. And the shutdown started. And let me tell you, trying to do theater school and being a theater major and trying to learn viewpoints in your bedroom over Zoom sucked. Theater is meant to be interactive, and I had a really, really hard time focusing, and my grades started to really like reflect that. I finished out that year. We had gone back to school, and we were doing like a hybrid schedule. So some of our classes were online, some of our classes were in person. It really just depended on what class it was. Things it started to look up academically for me, but I also just like my heart was not there. And I felt like I wasn't really becoming the artist that I wanted to be. Like, I love musical theater. I transferred from a BFA musical theater program at Millikin to a BA theater performance program. And they were just like completely different, and I would say that UNL's program focused heavily on classics, which I love, but like I didn't feel like I was getting well-rounded training. I was being taught how to act, which was great, but I wasn't able to take any voice lessons. I wasn't able to take any dance classes other than ballet, because that's all that was offered. And I felt like I was really suffering, and mentally I was like, I'm not doing well. So that March for spring break, I ended up taking a trip to New York. My friend Belit wrote a show called Delusion, the Houdini musical, and had some music that he wanted to make music videos for. We were like trying to figure out how we can get people to gravitate towards the show, listen to the cast album, and we were like, let's choreograph to some of the music. So with that, I got to coordinate the videos just as a whole. I got to cast the dancers, I got to choose the choreographers, and then I also got to like set up production. I hired the videographer, all of that jazz, which is so exciting for me at that time. And we made 2 videos, and they were so cool. I was in the city for about 10 days. Actually extended my trip. My trip was originally like 5 days, and one of my good friends, Jo, from home actually, she lives here as well, she was like, you can come and stay with me for a couple of days if you want. And I was like, oh my god, I would love to. I extended my trip and was able to just take some classes, and I had never felt more at peace. Like, I was like, yeah, this is where I'm supposed to be. And before I even got home from the trip, I called my mom and I was like, I'm moving. My mom was like, yeah, I saw that coming. And I struggled because I actually tried to finish my degree at UNL. In my head, I was like, well, over the last 2 years with the pandemic, like, we have done so much work to make classes accessible. I don't see why I can't take my remaining like 3 courses virtually, because they are already offered virtually. And the head of the program told me no. And I was like, okay, well, that sucks. And so I made the decision to just withdraw from my courses. And I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I know I need to not be here. Also, this is a new blush. I've never used it before, but it's so pretty. I feel like this is gonna be really pigmented, so I may have just put way too much on. Ended up moving in November. I was going to move in September, but I booked a production of Romeo and Juliet in Omaha, and it ended up staying there. And the day after the contract ended, my mom and I got on a plane. That was the most exciting thing that I've ever done. I booked a one-way ticket to New York. Okay, so now we have officially moved to New York in November 2021. So that was over 2 years ago now. I was able to find a sublet. Actually, one of my really good friends who I trained a bit with over the summers, his roommate was on the prom tour when that was out and was looking for someone to sublet his room, and I was like, I'll do it. About a month into me being in New York, I woke up to a text from a woman named Annette Tanner. Now, Annette Tanner is the president and founder of Broadway Dreams, and I started training the Broadway Dreams when I was like 12, and I had interned with them until like 2018. I was like, oh, why is Annette texting me? That's so weird. But her text just said,
"Are you Equity?"
I was like, girl, I wish. I was like, no, I'm not. And she's like,
Okay, great. The national tour of Hairspray is looking for a new dynamite. I think you'd be perfect. Can I send your headshot and resume?
Actually, no, I don't think she asked me. She was just like,
Send me your headshot and resume.
I was like, okay. I sent it to her right there from bed. I was like, send. And like a day or two later, I got an email from the casting team, a C-mail technically is what it's called. And they were like,
hey, we would love to see you tape this stuff.
And it was just the music for the Dynamites, and I was like, okay, cool. The videos are horrendous. I was at the time working on a reading with TheaterWorks USA. It was like a developmental reading of a show, like a little children's show. And I remember being like in rehearsals all day for that. I remember that it was in the same building as Ripley Greer, so I went to the room at Ripley Greer and I filmed my audition tapes. I had to sing songs, and then there was some choreography for Welcome to the 60s, and I was like, okay, great. It looked terrible. Like the choreography was great, the music was hard, and I will say the audition cut for that was so difficult because why am I singing all three parts? That is hard. After I sent it over, I actually didn't hear anything for like 2 weeks. I woke up the morning of January 4th and I had an email, again from Actors Access, and it was like,
Hey, we want you to tape yourself doing this choreography and submit it by the end of day if possible.
And I got that email at like 7 o'clock in the morning. And by like 1 p.m., I taught myself the choreography in my living room. And then I rented a studio to go and film it. And I think I went to Gibney actually and filmed it. Yes, I know for a fact that I went to Gibney because I was like, oh my gosh, the studio is so pretty. So I filmed in Gibney, and I was FaceTiming my best friend while I was practicing, and she was giving me notes. So thank you, Miranda. Filmed, I submitted it that night. It was submitted before like 4 p.m. because I wanted it by like 6, and I was like, girl, I got you, don't you worry. And it was the choreography for Run Until That. And the next day, I got another email. So this is on the 5th, and they're like,
You have a virtual callback over Zoom on January 7th at 3 p.m.
And I was like, oh shoot. So I had to rent another studio. Auditioning is so expensive. I remember on my callback day, I got ready and I left the house and I got to the train. Where's this? I got to the train and the trains were not running and I was freaking out. And my mom actually ended up Venmoing me so that I could get a car. So I got like an Uber so that I could get down to the studio so that I didn't miss my audition. So I did the callback and I got the offer the next day. Ended up leaving for the contract like 2 days after that. I'd originally been told that it was an immediate replacement. And so I was like, oh, okay, so I will be leaving like right away. And then when they first offered me the contract, they were like,
you actually don't have to leave right away. We don't need you yet. So you're gonna leave next week?
The night that I signed my contract, I got a call, and it was one of the producers, and she's like,
Hey, so there was a mix-up. Can you be on a plane tomorrow night?
and I was like, yeah, of course. So like everything changed. I ended up on a plane the next day, and I joined the Hairspray National Tour, and I was on that tour for 6 months. I was a swing. I auditioned for a Dynamite, and I remember in my callback, the choreographer had asked me like,
I've never been a swing before.
and I was like, yeah, once in college, and I have been told that I have a swing brain. Which, as an actor, I feel like being told that you have a swing brain is a wonderful compliment, because it just means that you are multifaceted, you can be seen for multiple things, and you have a strong skill set, and a good brain, like, in general, like, yeah, so, I was like, oh, okay, cool. But at the time, I didn't know that I was being considered for a swing, and so when I got the offer, I was like, oh, that's so weird. Also, originally, it said swing, Dynamites, and Lorraine, and as cast. I ended up being one of the Little Inez understudies as well, and that actually ended up being my like primary track other than Lorraine. I did Lorraine and Inez the most. Did that tour for about 6 months. And in the middle there, I dislocated my knee and actually had to, I'm looking for lip gloss. Where is it? So at the beginning of my contract with Hairspray, I actually ended up being on for the Lorraine track for 5 weeks straight, which was so cool, so exciting. I was on for Lorraine in Chicago, so a lot of my college friends from Nebraska, a lot of them live there. A lot of them came to see this show, and it was wonderful. It felt so, so good. And then I went back to like normal swing duties. And a couple of months in, I ended up dislocating my knee. I went on for one number for a track I did not cover. And I dislocated my knee. And that sucked. And I ended up being out for 6 weeks. And while I was out, I was back in New York, because when you're injured like that, companies don't want you traveling. But I am a firm believer that everything happens for a reason, and I will always say that, like, no matter what, there's a reason that something is happening. I was home in New York for my entire audition process for the Book of Mormon, which is crazy. Like, had I been on the road, it would have been so difficult for me to get back for in-person auditions. And I had started auditioning for Book of Mormon before I'd hurt my knee. And I had sent in my first self-tape and was like, I didn't hear anything for like a month. And the walls do that a lot. It's gonna do that for a while, so I'm just gonna finish this. Okay, so here is what we've got going on. I'm gonna put some brown mascara. I don't even know if this actually makes a difference because my skin is brown. Like, you know, I can't tell, but Yolanda Diaz does it on TikTok, and I adore her. She's so sweet. But like, crazy turn of events. So I remember I had gotten the call back, and my boyfriend and I, who I also met on the Hairspray tour, I love him, we were trying to figure out how the heck I was supposed to get into the city for that in-person appointment. The same day that I got the appointment, the producer, one of the producers for Hairspray, called me and was like, hey, I hear you're injured. We are sending you home until you get better. And I was like, oh no, thank God. Like, it just worked out so well. Literally, I did my final callback like a week before I flew back. Yeah, everything happens for a reason. I ended up booking the Book of Mormon, and I found out at dinner with my boyfriend like a couple of days after I got back to the Hairspray company. I was absolutely over the moon because I feel like part of me, oh my God, I felt like part of me thought that getting hairspray in the first place was a fluke because, I don't know, I was just like, I don't know how I got here. I booked the Book of Mormon and I was like, oh shoot. I was also offered a return contract for Hairspray. So I was given a choice of like, do you want to stay with Hairspray or do you want to go to Book of Mormon? And that was a conversation that like I was able to have with like the people closest to me, so my mom and my boyfriend, and they were really supportive. And like my boyfriend and I were like, oh my gosh, we're gonna be on different tour, it's gonna suck. But he was like, you have to do it, like build that resume, girlfriend. And I was like, thank you. I finished my contract with Hairspray the weekend that I turned 23 years old. And our last show was on my birthday, I believe. It was wonderful. Or it was the day before my birthday, I don't know. It was that weekend, and it was wonderful. And then I went home for a month. And then I started rehearsals for the Book of Mormon. In December of 2022, we were in LA, and I got really, really sick, like mid-show. I started like, you know, vomiting. And I ended up out of the show for like a week because I was throwing up for a week. And I went to the hospital in LA, which sucked, by the way. Those doctors, not good at their jobs. They're like,
oh, there's nothing wrong with you. You can go home.
They didn't give me any tests. They were like,
Go home.
and I was like, okay. And then like 2 weeks later, I was in Jersey with my boyfriend's family because I did Christmas with them. And 2 weeks later, I started vomiting and I was in a ton of pain. And Dustin was like,
let's go to the hospital.
And I was like, okay. And they're like,
Yeah, girlfriend, your appendix needs to come out.
and I was like, wow, has this been the thing the whole time? They're like,
Yeah, probably.
and I was like, oh. And I ended up having to take another month off of work because I couldn't lift anything after surgery. And then when I was cleared to return, mentally, I started having panic attacks. And I was like, I firmly believe that your body will tell you what you need. And my body was telling me that I needed to not work there. So my appendix crapped out, right? And yeah, I decided to leave. That was the hardest decision that I've ever had to make. But I know that it was the best decision I could have made. And here we are. It's been over a year now. Well, actually, it's been almost a year. I didn't officially leave the tour until like February 1st. So it's been almost a year, and I've just been living in New York and doing my thing and working muggle jobs and singing at 54 Below in Birdland and having the time of my life. And yeah, and now I'm choreographing shows and I'm associate directing a production of Hairspray at my former high school, which is wonderful. Thank you for watching this video. I just wanted to give a little context on my background and what's been going on in the world of Nadia Rashan, because I think it's interesting sometimes. Sometimes it's not. So we'll be seeing ya. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you liked it and if you enjoyed hearing me talk, please subscribe because I've got a lot more words where that came from. Anywho, have a wonderful day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!